Okay, so College Board has updated its curriculum a little bit and made slight changes. So while I have a video similar to this already on my page, this one is newer version and it's for the beginning of the year 2025. And so hopefully it lasts for a few years without any changes. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So organisms must exchange matter with their environment to grow, reproduce, and maintain organization. Now this is going to be different depending on if you are an autotroph or a heterotroph. An autotroph is like a plant that does photosynthesis to build all of its own macromolecules versus a heterotroph that is going to consume and eat to get all of its matter and macromolecules, etc. But when we think about life on Earth and the four major macromolecules, carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids, and we think about, well, what do they all have in common? Well, what they have in common is they have carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. The question is, why? So if we look at plants, right? So plants carry out photosynthesis. They take carbon dioxide from the air or from their environment, and then water through their roots. And they're going to take that carbon, that hydrogen and oxygen through the beauty of photosynthesis and rearrange those elements into a very simple sugar called G3P. Now, they also need more than carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So plants or other autotrophs will get the excess elements and atoms from their environment. So two major important ones are going to be nitrogen and phosphorus. So nitrogen and phosphorus for plants are going to come from the soil. This is why fertilizers have nitrogen and phosphorus added to them to make sure the plants have those available to them. Now there's other trace elements like sulfur or iron or zinc or magnesium that plants will also need or autotrophs will also need, and they will take those in through their roots and through their environment. But when we look at the foundation of life, so life is based on four large molecules: carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. Now they all have this basic like foundation of C, H, and O. And that traces back to photosynthesis. Carbon dioxide and water are rearranged in the Calvin cycle of photosynthesis to make a very simple sugar called G3P. So this G3P sugar is like the source of the carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen that is used to synthesize all organic molecules needed for life. So what are those four organic molecules? I've kind of already mentioned them. We have carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. And if you are in AP Bio right now, the rest of Unit 1 talks about each of these individually. So on my YouTube page, you can find a video on carbs, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids and study what their jobs are in detail then, like in the videos, but also throughout our entire year together. So the focus of this video, though, is to look at the different elements found in each of these four organic molecules. Now, they all have carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, thanks to the plants doing photosynthesis and carrying out the Calvin cycle to convert carbon dioxide and water into C, H, and O. However, proteins also have nitrogen, that if it's a plant, got it from the soil, and then nucleic acids, or our DNA and our RNA, have carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, as well as nitrogen and phosphorus. So if we go ahead and take a look at these organic molecules, carbohydrates are going to have a circular structure or like a hexagon. And so here this would be a glucose or a single sugar molecule. You can look at this carbohydrate and see carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Then if we look at lipids, in my lipids video, you will see that there are three different types of lipids. Primary one, though, are triglycerides. Again, you see carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Then we have proteins. So the basic structure or the building block of a protein is called an amino acid. So we have carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen are in proteins. That R that you see is more like a placeholder. There's not really an element with an R in proteins. And then our last macromolecule or our last organic molecule is our DNA or our RNA. Now, if you look at this structure here, this is a nucleotide or a building block of DNA and RNA, and you can see 5 elements: carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and phosphorus. So these are our 4 organic molecules, and again, they all have C, H, O, but proteins also have nitrogen, and nucleic acids also have nitrogen and phosphorus. So as heterotrophs, though, like I mentioned, we don't do photosynthesis. So how do we get our macromolecules? Well, it's from our food that we eat. If you have like a nutrition label, we can see our lipids, our carbs, and our proteins, and that's how we can take in our macromolecules, rearrange them, use them how we need. Hopefully you're eating things that don't have nutrition labels, like an apple or something, but anyway, you literally are what you eat. Now, what's new in this video compared to some of my older ones is some like exceptions or additions to what I've taught you so far. So when we talk about lipids, sure, the main elements are C, H, and O. However, there is an exception in the case of phospholipids. So phospholipids make up our cell membranes. And if you look at this phospholipid, it's technically a modified triglyceride. And what we have up here attached at the top of this phospholipid is a phosphate group. So there's a phosphorus there. So when we talk about lipids, lipids generally are C, H, and O. However, in the case of phospholipids, there might also be a P. But you wouldn't say all lipids have CHOP. It's only going to be phospholipids that have a phosphate group attached. I would say 95, I read somewhere once, 95% of lipids on Earth are triglycerides, which are our C, H's, and O's. Okay, and then the other exception come in the case of proteins. So proteins are made of amino acids. Now, amino acids, that R placeholder right there, there's a variety of different R groups, or variable side chains. So there are 20 different amino acids, and we'll talk about this more in our proteins video, but in 2 out of the 20, they actually have sulfur. So when we talk about proteins and the elements found in protein, CHON, all 20 amino acids. However, there might be a few instances where sulfur is present because it is found in 2 out of the 20 amino acids. So sulfur can also be included in a discussion on the elements found in proteins. Okay, I hope that was helpful for you, and that is it for topic 1.2. Great job.